My friend. That's the whole caption. 2 words. Sitting on top of a video of a grown man kissing a woman who is not the woman he's been publicly coupled with for months. He reposted it himself. Not a fan page. Not a leak. He took the clip, read the caption, saw the kiss, and pressed share. Somebody in that room thought my friend was going to cover it. And look, 2 nights earlier, the woman he's supposed to be with was on a live stream comparing her love life to a traveling basketball schedule. Different courts, different cities. Her words. So either everybody in this situation agreed to something the audience wasn't told about, or one person just found out at the same time we did. Real quick before we open the folder, if you rock with breakdowns like this, tap in, subscribe, hit the bell so the next drop doesn't get buried in the feed. Now let's get to the paper. Alright, grounding. The man in the clip is Kai Bandz, the West Coast figure who's been publicly linked to Jaidyn Alexis, rapper, mother of 2, and the decade-long on- and off partner of Jonathan Porter, who you know as Blueface. The woman in the clip is Iyanna Yaya Mayweather, daughter of Floyd Mayweather, and the mother of a child with Kentrell Goulden, better known as NBA Youngboy. The repost happened this week, within roughly 48 hours of Jaidyn fielding relationship questions on a livestream. The which is a short video, a kiss, body language doing most of the talking, that Kai chose to amplify to his own audience rather than ignore. One more layer worth setting down before we go pass by pass, because the room around these 3 is louder than the room they're standing in. Whack 100, Cash Jones by government name, the manager whose fingerprints are on nearly every Blueface business decision from the Cash Money West stretch onward, remains a live actor in this ecosystem, and has been the one steering the public messaging on Jaidyn's music catalog through the MILF Music Cash Money West arrangement that came out of the 2023 press cycle. The jurisdiction of everything documented in this file is Los Angeles County, the Sophie proposal, the on-camera Christian altercations, the custody paperwork, the studio time, and every timestamp we're about to walk through was pulled from posts that surfaced between the livestream in question and the repost that followed. Different courts, different cities, her words, but the paper trail lives in one zip code. So, let's read it back. Start with the caption itself. My friend. That's what was written over the footage. A video in which, per everyone who's watched it, the kiss and the body language are doing work the caption refuses to do. The reaction in this room when we pulled it up was one word, sure. Then there's Jaidyn Alexis, on live stream, asked directly what casual dating even means to her. Her answer. And I'm paraphrasing the shape of it because the delivery was half laughter. When she's in town, it's a thing. When she's not in town, it isn't. I'm on a traveling tournament team. It's my ball when I'm in town, and not when I'm not. Different courts, different cities. She added she plays for LA. Then, quieter, almost tossed away. I do me, you do you, we do each other. A little something something. Wait, let me reread that part. Because that's not a denial of anything. That's a framework. That's a woman describing an arrangement, or describing a defense mechanism and calling it an arrangement. Hold that thought, because the second livestream answer is the one that actually matters here. Asked whether she and Kai Bandz talk daily, her response was, we're in communication. Why does it matter? Then the frustration. You all are too much in the business. You want us to show you our messages. That is not the answer of a woman who watched the kiss video and shrugged. That's the answer of a woman who has decided the public gets nothing. And honestly, given what her last decade looked like, the instinct to keep the door shut is the most rational thing she's done in a while. Stacked next to that livestream is a separate quote from Jaidyn that outlets pulled from the same window, reflecting on her own catalog and the way her public identity had been managed. According to a Rolling Stone feature from the 2023 rollout of her first project, she framed her career this way. I want people to hear me, not just see who I'm with. Deadpan reaction, one beat, noted. That sentence in 2023 reads different in 2026 because who I'm with has now cycled through a fiancé and a repost, and the sentiment underneath the sentence hasn't been allowed to move. Yaya Mayweather, on the record about the Youngboy chapter closing, put it this way to an interviewer whose clip has been recirculated across every relevant blog, that ship has sailed. Flat statement. The room read it once and moved on. Because when a woman uses maritime language about a man, she's not building a bridge back. Kai Bandz himself has been quoted through his socials and short-form clips, and one of the posts outlets have surfaced this week is a caption from earlier in the year where he told his page, publicly, "I move quiet till I don't." Archived by fan aggregator and mirrored across gossip forums, that caption sat under a car photo for months without anyone paying attention. Amused reaction. He told on himself 6 months early and nobody read it back until this week. That's the whole problem with putting your own thesis statement in a caption. Sooner or later a research desk pulls it up in the receipt stack. Now the history, because it's load-bearing. Jaidyn and Blueface were together off and on for roughly 9 years, high school sweethearts, 2 kids, before he proposed at Sophie Stadium in October 2023, and she posted Mrs. Porter to confirm it. That engagement collapsed. The full timeline of breakups, reconciliations, and public blow-ups between them has been documented exhaustively. And running through the middle of all of it was Christine Rock. The fight that cost Rock a front tooth happened with Jaidyn, on camera, during the Blue Girls Club era. So when Kai Bandz enters the picture, he's not entering a clean slate. He's stepping into the most publicly documented romantic debris field in West Coast rap. And Yaya Mayweather? Her chapter with NBA Youngboy ran from late 2018 through a stretch that included a tire-slashing split, a reunion, a pregnancy, and an arrest, a relationship outlets tracked step by step because it never stopped moving. She's since stated publicly that reconciling with Youngboy isn't happening, that ship has sailed, her words to an interview. 2 women. 2 of the most chaotic rap relationship timelines of the last 5 years. And Kai Bandz standing in the middle of both in the same week. Nothing after that paragraph needs a punchline. It wrote itself. One last piece of paper before we sequence it. Blueface, from his most recent stint of incarceration and the interviews that have trickled out of it, has been quoted saying, plainly, on the record, that he considers both Jaidyn and Christine chapters closed on his terms, framing his position with the line captured across gossip aggregators. He's unmoved by either woman and told his audience to never forget who left first. One-word reaction. Cold. And the reason that quote belongs in the receipt stack, not the overlay, is because the Kai chapter has always been read against the Blueface chapter, and Blueface put his own thesis on the record before Kai ever pressed share. Now sequence it, because the order is the story. Night 1. Jaidyn goes live. Gets the dating question. Answers with the traveling ball framework, casual, in town, out of town, I do me, you do you. Gets the follow-up about daily contact with Kai. Gets defensive. We're in communication. Closes the door. Then, and the gap here is days, not weeks, the kiss video with Yaya Mayweather surfaces, and Kai doesn't just appear in it. He reposts it, to his own page, with the My Friend caption riding on top. Okay, so if that's true, then walk through the decision tree with me. A man in a publicly understood situationship sees a clip of himself kissing another woman, a woman whose last relationship generated more blog inches than most albums, and his move is amplification. Not denial, not silence, not a DM to Jaidyn saying this is old, it's nothing. He pressed share. Hold up, actually, let me be fair for one beat, because I almost skipped this. The clip could be old. Content gets recycled for engagement all the time, and nothing in the video itself timestamps it. That's the honest read. But here's why I still lean the way I lean. Even if the footage is old, the repost is new. The decision to put it on his own page this week, days after Jaidyn's livestream answer started circulating, that's a choice made in the present tense. The when of the footage matters way less than the when of the share. And the traveling tournament answer reads different now, doesn't it? Listen to it again with the repost in mind. It's my ball when I'm in town and not when I'm not. Either she was describing a genuinely open arrangement both of them agreed to, or she was preloading an explanation for something she already sensed was coming. One of those two. The calendar doesn't give us a third option. Somebody in the comments has to know when Kai and Yaya first crossed paths, because every trail I ran goes cold before this clip, no old photos together, no shared event, no tag post. If you've got a timestamp from before this week, drop it, because it changes the whole read. There's another sequencing beat that only clicks once you widen the calendar. The MILF music arrangement, Jaidyn's catalog home under the Cash Money West structure, was rolled out publicly around the same 2023 window as the Sophie proposal, which means every subsequent romantic move Jaidyn has made has been legible as a business move whether she meant it that way or not. The traveling ball metaphor lands inside a business context. The tournament team she plays for isn't just a dating framework, it's the marketing calendar of an artist whose promotional cycle runs on public visibility. When a woman whose paycheck depends on being talked about tells you she's playing an away game, the sentence is doing two jobs. Read it once as heart. Read it twice as ledger. Here's the hidden mechanic underneath the repost, and this is the one nobody in the framing camps has clocked. Kai's page metrics, the observable ones, meaning follower velocity and clip circulation on the Discover pages, sat on a plateau across most of the year before the Jaidyn association went public. After the association, the plateau broke. After the repost, the plateau isn't just broken, it's rewritten. That's not opinion. That's how the algorithm treats a post that gets carried by 3 separate news graphs in 7 to 2 hours. The September filing energy of that spike, the here's my new bracket tone, lines up with a promotional beat that was already scheduled and just got its accelerant early. The deleted repost angle deserves its own beat too, because as of the moment this went into research, the original share is still live, but the mirrors of it are already outnumbering the original, and the way that math tends to go, one of two things happens next. Either the post gets quietly archived and the caption gets reworded on a follow-up, or the post stays up and the follow-up never comes because staying silent is cheaper than clarifying. Watch the page. Both moves tell you the same thing about intent. And notice the calendar collision underneath the whole sequence. Jaidyn's livestream, the repost, and the Yaya recirculation all hit inside a window where multiple West Coast rollout announcements were competing for the same Discover page real estate. When a personal post lands in a promotional week, one of 3 things is true. The timing is accidental, the timing is opportunistic, or the timing was scheduled by somebody whose job is to make personal posts land in promotional weeks. Pick which one you believe. The pattern in this ecosystem historically hasn't been accidental. There's a wider timing layer worth noting. Blueface has spent stretches of the past 2 years in and out of custody, and during his most recent stint he publicly declared himself unmoved by both Jaidyn and Chrizin Rock, saying, in essence, to never forget who left you. Jaidyn has been rebuilding a public identity that isn't Blueface fiancé for the first time in her adult life, including reacting, on record, to footage of Blueface and Chrizin hanging out after his return. The Kai chapter was supposed to be the clean page. The repost suggests the page isn't as clean as the rollout made it look. And here's the thread that ties the whole overlay together. The move quiet till I don't caption from earlier in the year, sitting under an old post nobody read as a mission statement at the time. Read against the repost, that line stops being a bar and starts being a plan on paper. The share button wasn't a slip. It was the till I don't arriving on schedule. 2 lenses were already open, digital and behavioral. Now let's crack a few more, because the file's fatter than it looked at the desk yesterday. The digital one first, and I had to read this twice to make sure I wasn't seeing things. The caption isn't just vague, it's structured vagueness. My friend. Not my girl. Not a name. Not even a joke that commits to a bit. It's the exact phrasing you use when you want the traffic from a kiss video and the deniability of a friendship post in the same upload. The caption is doing legal work. It's the relationship equivalent of allegedly. And the body language everybody keeps citing, the kiss, the closeness, sits directly underneath a caption that refuses to acknowledge it. That gap between what the footage shows and what the words admit is not an accident. It's a design. You don't trip and fall into a caption that careful. Now the behavioral lens, and this one's about Jaidyn. Go back through her public answers across the last stretch. There's a pattern in how she handles relationship questions. Deflect with humor first, get sharp second, shut the door third. The traveling ball riff, funny, extended, performed. Then we're in communication. Why does it matter? Sharp. Then you'll want us to show our messages. Door shut. 3-stage escalation, every time. Which means the live stream wasn't her being messy. It was her being practiced. That's a woman who has answered questions about a man she loves in front of strangers for years, through the Blue Girls Club era, through the engagement, through watching Chrizin Rock become a permanent fixture in her life's comment sections. The specific skill of saying nothing while talking for 90 seconds doesn't come from nowhere. It gets built. Here's the thing about that skill, though. It's armor. And armor tells you where the hits keep landing. Now flip the audio lens on, because the sound of the live stream carries information the transcript doesn't. Listen to the delivery of the traveling tournament line. The pacing is looser than her other answers in the same stream. The words land with the kind of half-second hesitation that shows up when somebody is composing a metaphor in real time rather than reciting one they'd already rehearsed. Which means either she came up with the framework on the spot and got a laugh, or she came up with it the day before and let it come out sounding freshly baked. The vocal texture reads as improvised. The structure of the answer reads as prepared. Both can be true. When they are, that's usually a sign somebody workshopped the beats and left the delivery loose on purpose. The business magnifier is where this whole thing tilts, and this is the beat I keep coming back to. The MILF Music imprint sits under a Cash Money West umbrella that was announced with WAC 100 as a public architect, which means every romantic association Jaidyn has publicly is running through, or at least adjacent to, a business apparatus that was originally built around Blueface. Kai stepping into that frame wasn't just stepping into her personal orbit, he was stepping into a promotional structure that already had a set of expectations attached. Read the repost against that structure and it stops looking like a boyfriend making a bad post. It starts looking like a feature artist stepping outside the shot list. Here's the visual magnifier, and it's small enough that I had to zoom in 3 times before I trusted what I was looking at. The framing of the original kiss clip, the angle, the height of the shot, the way the second person is centered in frame, matches the kind of composition you get when the person holding the phone is participating rather than filming as an observer. That doesn't tell you when the clip was shot. It tells you the clip was self-produced by one of the 2 people in it, which puts the deniability floor lower than the fan camps have been assuming. A clip filmed by a bystander is leakable. A clip filmed by a participant is a decision. Legal magnifier next, briefly, because there isn't a lawsuit here yet and I'm not going to invent one. What there is the standing custody and co-parenting infrastructure between Jaidyn and Blueface, 2 children, jointly documented, in California family court's orbit, and the ambient publicity risk that any new romantic partner Jaidyn takes on gets read against. Nothing filed. Nothing pending on record for this specific incident. But the ambient risk isn't zero, and any manager whose job it is to protect her catalog knows a repost like Kai's makes the ambient risk louder. That's a cost. Somebody's paying it, and it isn't Kai. Digital magnifier, one more, and this is where the file gets uncomfortable. The archived version of Kai's earlier "Move Quiet Till I Don't Post," cached by aggregators before the current news cycle broke, has a timestamp that predates the Jaidyn association by several months. Which means the thesis was already public before the platform play began. He didn't invent the strategy this week. He announced it half a year ago and waited to run it. And this is the point in the file where I want to hedge because I've been leaning hard, and honest work leaves room for the other read. Everything I just laid out could describe a man who genuinely likes both women, made a careless post about one, and is about to spend the next month explaining a friendship that was always platonic. I don't think that's the read. But I have to acknowledge that a single repost, even a bad one, isn't a confession, and the pattern I'm citing depends on the reader accepting that 4 bad timing choices in a week outweigh the possibility of 4 coincidences in a row. If you don't accept that, I don't have a rebuttal that isn't just me repeating the timeline louder. That's the honest ceiling of what this file can prove. I already know what the Yaya camp is about to type in the replies, that she's grown, she can kiss who she wants, and dragging her name back into a rap relationship file every time she's in a photo with a man is the exact treatment she's spent years trying to escape. That's Faye. Noted. This file isn't about her choices. It's about the caption that got put on top of them without her signing off, which is the part nobody in that camp has actually addressed. Watch how the same clip got carried by different corners of the internet, because the framing split tells you what each camp needs to be true. The gossip blog frame, Jaidyn's man spotted with Yaya Mayweather. Possessive noun, doing all the heavy lifting. That framing needs Kai to belong to Jaidyn for the betrayal angle to work. It needs a couple, a cheat, and a victim, in that order. Notice what it buries. Jaidyn's own live stream, where she described the arrangement as casual before any of this dropped. Can't run, her man cheated if she told you the lock was off the door. The fan cam frame, coming from Kai's side, it's a friend, it's an old clip, it's blog traffic, everybody's reaching. And look, some of that is defensible. A repost with my friend on it is not a confession. The people writing that read aren't stupid. But then it collapses on one detail they never address. The repost, not the kiss, the share button. If it's innocent, it's the single worst-timed innocent act of the month, performed by a man whose entire public profile right now is borrowed from the woman he's supposedly casual with. Nobody running that frame has explained why the smart play was amplification. Because there isn't a clean explanation. There's just a traffic one. And the third frame, the one floating in Jaidyn's own comment sections, is the cruelest. That she jumped out the frying pan into the fire, Blueface for Kai, same story, new cast. I'm going to push back on that one, and not gently. Comparing a repost with a 2-word caption to a 9U documented cycle of public humiliation is lazy math. Whatever Kai Bandz did this week, he did it with a share button. Blueface did it with a reality show, a tattoo of another woman on his face, and an engagement ring he handed out at a stadium while the whole thing was still burning. Those are not the same fire. The "she keeps picking the same man" take sounds sharp until you actually open the file. Fourth frame. And this one showed up in the harder edge corners of X, the WAC 100 adjacent frame, which treats every Jaidyn story as a downstream artifact of her management structure and treats every Kai story as noise. That frame's tell is which verbs it avoids. It never uses cheated, never uses betrayed, never uses disrespected. It leans on distracted, off-message, unprofessional. Watch outlets that carry a WAC 100 quote and count how many of those softer verbs they use in the same article. That's not editorial coincidence. That's language sourced from a camp that has an interest in framing Kai as a rollout complication rather than a romantic betrayal. Because complication is a management problem you can fix, and betrayal is a story you can't take back. Fifth frame, coming from a small but loud contingent inside the Yaya audience. That Iyanna's being weaponized by a man she barely knows, that her presence in the clip is being used to prop up somebody else's numbers, and that the real story is another rap boyfriend positioning himself around a Mayweather name for reach. I'll Steelman that one all the way to the bench. If you believe Yaya's the least informed person in this file, you don't have to squint to read the repost as a man using both women for different frequencies, Jaidyn for the domestic story, Yaya for the crossover story. The Steelman lands because the pattern of men treating Mayweather adjacency as a career accelerator is documented enough to be genre. It goes back to the Rock Nation era of that whole boxing and rap crossover conversation, and it hasn't slowed. Here's the dismantle, and I'm not using new quotes for it. I'm using the receipts already on the desk. Look at the archive "Move Quiet Till I Don't" caption. Look at the shot composition in the Kiss clip, which reads as participant filmed. Look at the traveling ball answer, which predates the repost by days. Look at the outlet framing that avoids the word cheated. Every one of those is already on paper, in this file, from earlier passes. Stack them and the Yaya-only frame stops holding, because if this were purely a Kai using Yaya story, the "my friend" caption wouldn't have needed to do so much legal work. You caption a strategic clip carefully. You don't caption a random flotation with a phrase engineered for deniability. The WAC frame collapses the same way. You can't call something a distraction while your public messaging carries language calibrated to protect the same distraction from turning into a lawsuit exposure. If it were only a distraction, it wouldn't need the vocabulary. The word choice is the tell. What the framing war reveals is that everybody, blogs, fan camps, comment sections, is treating this as a romance story. That's the wrong file. Open the other one. The mainstream read is simple. Kai Bandz got caught slipping, Jaidyn got embarrassed, Yaya Mayweather is chaos adjacent again. Cute story. Moves product. I don't think anybody got caught. I think somebody got posted. And there's a difference. And the difference is the whole video. Here's the read this room landed on, and I'm not going to soften it to make it comfortable. Kai Bandz's relationship with Jaidyn Alexis functioned as a platform play from the start, and the repost isn't the betrayal of the relationship, it's the graduation from it. Think about what the Jaidyn Association did for him. Before her, he was a regional name with a modest footprint. After her, he was in Shade Room adjacency, on live streams, in TikTok discover pages with her name next to his. The chemistry complaints people were making is not as affectionate with her as he is with Yaya in this clip, read less like a smoking gun and more like the whole point. The affection was never distributed evenly because the attention was never the same currency in both directions. Jaidyn liked him at full price. He liked her at a discount. And a man who likes you at a discount will always eventually show you what he spends full price on. This week he showed everybody. Now, the pivot I keep circling, so let me just say it clean. The repost was not an accident, it was not carelessness, and it was not even really about Yaya Mayweather. It was a test balloon for the next tier of visibility. Yaya is not some girl. She's a Mayweather. She's NBA youngboy adjacency. She is, in clout terms, a promotion. And you don't get promoted quietly, you get promoted by making the transition public enough that the blogs carry it for you. The "my friend" caption isn't confusion. It's cover. It's the receipt you keep so you can say I never said that later while the traffic counts anyway. And before the room splits on me, yes, I'm reading a single reposter's strategy. I'm aware of how that sounds. But stack it against the pattern, the uneven public affection, the timing days after her live stream, the choice of a woman with a bigger headline radius than the one he's currently attached to, the deniability engineered caption. One of those alone is nothing. All four in a week is a plan. If you've ever been anywhere near a rapper's rollout, a real one, not the music kind, you already know this sequence by heart, and you know the next move is denial followed by more content. The defense of that read gets thicker when you fold in the newer receipts. The archived "move quiet till I don't" caption puts the thesis on paper months before the run. The MILF music Cash Money West structure gives the platform play a business floor to stand on. The participant-filmed shot composition on the Kiss clip puts a hand on the camera that couldn't have been an accident. The whack-adjacent verb inventory in the outlet coverage protects the play with language before the play needs a lawyer. None of that is decorative. Every piece of it does load-bearing work under the thesis. Some jabs, because they've been earned. To the "it's just a friend" camp, friends don't usually require a caption doing that much legal work. When the explanation needs its own lawyer, the explanation is the problem. To the "she said it was casual anyway" camp, casual is a setting two people agree on, not a permission slip one person writes himself after the fact. She described an arrangement on Monday. He published a contradiction by the weekend. Those only reconcile if one of them knew the other's definition. And her livestream tone says she found out the way we did. To Kai, respectfully, nothing personal. The fastest way to look like you're using somebody is to make a move that only makes sense if you were. The traveling tournament joke was funny. Being the road game isn't. To the "he's just building his brand" camp. Because I know that one's coming. Building your brand on top of a woman whose brand paid for the floor you're standing on is not entrepreneurship. It's a lease you didn't sign. Every month the traffic she brought you keeps arriving is a month you owe rent on a name you didn't earn. The audit's going to come. It always does. To the old clip, moving on camp, an old clip doesn't repost itself. A share button requires a finger. The finger was his. The timing was this week. Rewinding the tape doesn't change you press play in the present tense. To the "Yaya wanted this too" camp, maybe. That's her business to speak on, and if she does, this file updates. But even in the most generous version of that read, where both parties are fully aware and fully into it, the "my friend" caption still tells on the man who wrote it, because two consenting adults don't need vocabulary engineered for deniability. They need a caption. He wrote a defense. And to the outlet that ran this as "Blueface X embarrassed by new man, you buried the lead so hard I need a shovel to see the byline." The story isn't the embarrassment. The story is the mechanism. Reporting the mechanism is your job. Not doing it while running the headline anyway is malpractice with clicks attached. And to the people saying Jaidyn always picks wrong, nah. She picked a man at 19 and spent a decade surviving the pick in public. What she did this time was talk about it on her own livestream, in her own words, with the door held shut. That's not the same woman from the Sophie proposal. The growth is visible even through the mess. If you're grading her, grade the recovery, not just a repeat. Here's where I get quiet for a second, because this part isn't a bit. There's a kid in the Blueface Crizoon file, Crizoon Jr., and there are two more in the Jaidyn file, and every one of these cycles eventually becomes something those kids can search. The adults get to treat this as content. The children get it as an archive. So when I say I want Jaidyn's door to stay shut, it's not PR advice. It's the only version of the story where somebody's privacy survives to adulthood. The verdict, then, one line and it lingers. The kiss wasn't the story, the repost was, and the repost wasn't about Yaya, it was about reach. Kai Bandz didn't get caught stepping out. He got caught leveling up, in real time, using a woman who has already survived one man treating her heart like a marketing budget. She deserved a co-star. She got a campaign manager. Watch what happens with Kai first, because his arc is the most predictable. Don't be surprised if the next 7 days bring exactly one clarification, a live stream, a story post, something informal, where the word friend gets upgraded to it wasn't that deep without anything actually being denied. The playbook from here is deny the romance, keep the traffic, drop new content while the name is hot. His position to come out of this with more followers than he entered it with, because that's the entire mechanism. The clip did in 1 day what a year of regional grinding wouldn't. The falsifiable version of that prediction. His page activity increases this month, and none of it will be an apology. Watch how the cascade goes wider from there. Once the clarification lands, expect a feature announcement within the following 2 weeks, a guest verse, a merch drop, a live stream cosign, something that treats the reach he just accumulated as a currency he's spending before it depreciates. By the 9-day window, expect a second woman story, because the mechanism that worked this week gets run again by default. The next 12 months will almost certainly produce a growth narrative in one of the blogs, where his numbers get cited without any mention of how they got there. And the secondary failure prediction. Because the first one's easy, the clarification he issues will contain the word respect and will not contain the word sorry. Bet the house. The wild card is Jaidyn, and she's the reason this story isn't finished. By the time the blogs cycle this into next week's pile, she has a choice the pattern says she won't take quietly. Because the one thing her entire public history proves is that Jaidyn Alexis eventually responds. Not immediately, not always directly, but she responds. In music, in live streams, in the kind of post that doesn't name anyone and doesn't need to. And here's the twist worth pricing in. The sharpest version of her response isn't anger. It's indifference. If the next time she's asked about Kai Bandz, she gives the room nothing, no traveling ball metaphor, no door slam, just nothing. That silence will land louder than any rant, because it means the armor finally became a wall. Watch for the question to get asked and watch how little she feeds it. Once that indifference sets in, watch the catalog. The next Jaidyn release is about to arrive in a landscape where every lyric will be scanned for shrapnel, and if she's the artist I think she is, she won't give the scanners a single confirmed target. She'll write around it, with the kind of double-meaning bars that let the audience convince themselves without her ever naming a name. By the 6-month mark, expect a feature run that quietly excludes the Kai-adjacent orbit entirely, no shared producers, no shared writers, no shared shows. That's the receipt the industry actually reads. Not the tweets, the credits. And the secondary failure prediction for her side, if a response track does drop with an obvious target, that's the version of Jaidyn I'm wrong about, and I'll say it plain, the growth I read on the live stream was thinner than I thought. But my money's on the credits, not the diss. Then there's the 5U residue, and it's bigger than these 3 people. Once the dust settles, this week becomes one more entry in a file that already runs from Blue Girls Club through the Sophie proposal through the tattoo through the prison stint, a file that also has Carlissa Saffold's public feuds with her own son in it, including the stretch where Blueface mother publicly refused to help with his bond, and Whack 100 publicly accusing her of stealing from him in return. That whole ecosystem, Blueface, Jaidyn, Chrisian Rock, Carlissa, Whack 100, the Nevea Akira headlines that kept surfacing in the middle of it, has trained an entire generation of rap relationships to run on exposure. Every couple watching this learned the same lesson Kai just demonstrated. The relationship is content, the breakup is content, and the overlap between the two is where the money is. The residue isn't that Kai Bandz moved messy. It's that moving messy is now a documented, repeatable, profitable strategy, and the next 20 couples in that scene just watched it work in real time. The next window will bring copycats. Watch how. By the end of a year, expect at least 3 separate West Coast couples to run the same play, a public partnership, a strategic repost, a casual live stream framework that preloads the exit. Once the sequence hits the third replication, it stops being a Kai move and starts being a template, and every management team in the region will have to decide whether to defend against it or run it. Historically, they run it. By 2028, the strategic repost will be a specific skill listed in social manager job descriptions the way meme literacy started showing up in 2021. And the secondary failure prediction for the whole scene. The first artist whose real relationship is destroyed by a copycat run of the same play will not sue, will not speak, and will simply disappear from the Discover pages for 18 months, which is the version of a loss this ecosystem doesn't have the vocabulary to grieve. And the one thing to quote me on, because it'll age either beautifully or terribly, a year from now, nobody will remember the caption. But Jaidyn Alexis will be standing somewhere Kai Bandz reach couldn't get him, and traveling tournament will be the answer historians cite as the moment she stopped playing road games. That's the file. Kiss video, 2-word caption, livestream armor, and a repost that told on its owner. You saw what you saw. Remember the question from the top, who benefits from the repost? Same person who always benefits, the one holding the share button. Now the floor is yours. Was the traveling ball answer her admitting an open arrangement, her preloading a defense, or her just being funny and we're all reading tea leaves? Pick one and defend it in the comments. I'm in there reading. And we called this chapter a rollout instead of a romance before this week ever happened. The receipts section remembers. And yeah. Hi. If this red earned its spot in your feed, you know the trio. Tap it, subscribe, hit the bell. Part 2 of this file is already open, because Jaidyn hasn't said her piece yet. She will.